all of you for showing up and being present and hanging in with us. And I also want to thank WriterHouse for agreeing to support this event and provide their assistance with some promotion of it. And WriterHouse is one of the 3 501c3 writers organizations in the state of Virginia. So even though WriterHouse isn't open to the public at this time, as you know, WriterHouse is still offering programs, as is James River Writers. And I invite your consideration, if you can do it, to make a donation or contribution of any amount that you can to WriterHouse to help keep WriterHouse open and going. And here we are. Can you believe it? 10 years. This event has been was initiated 10 years ago by emails sent by Michael Rothenberg and Carrie Tyrion to 90 poets in 100 countries. 10 years. This is the first year I've actually had a phone conversation with Michael Rothenberg, and he helped me with some information about creating this event on Zoom. And it was an amazing, I asked him what his thoughts were about it being the 10th year and being on Zoom, and he said that it actually, because of being on Zoom and because the event can occur on any date, it meant that it was opening the possibility for more people in different locations, different countries, to be connecting with each other. So that's pretty exciting. And we'll get started, I think, in just a moment. Okay, I'm sending you the link to WriterHouse, and I'm scooting out of chat. So here we are. Welcome. And Tom, you look so great. Planet behind you. There's so much sleep.
There we go.
And Mariana with her scarves. It's great to see all of you here. Thank you so much for choosing to hang in and show up, as I said. Here we are, a decade later. I invite you to take a moment with me. Let's each take a deep breath. I know that it's stressful trying to manage getting on. I want to thank Tom Brown again for your tremendous support in making this event possible.
I welcome the chance to do this. I'm always happy to do it.
Thank you. So while I do have it's the bench. Ooh, look at that.
Your virtual bowl.
This is my magic bowl, the cauldron. No, it's not the cauldron. It's the calendar of creative collaboration, as some of you are well aware of. Your names are in the bowl, and I will be drawing the reading order from this bowl. And we're going to begin by taking just a few moments. Let's come together in being aware of this incredible moment in time that we're experiencing and co-creating together. And again, I thank you for choosing to co-create this event. Let's take a deep breath and settle in and come. Oh, Susan's here.
Welcome.
Yay. She's really good.
Hello. Hello.
Good. Okay, Susan has another commitment, so we're going to get going. And let's take a deep breath together and just pause for a moment. Remembering here we are in this unique moment in time and human history and Earth history. Being aware that Earth is beneath our feet, always supporting us, and above us, the infinite. And let's take another deep breath together. As we breathe, we are coming more into alignment as a community, and that's the heart of this event. And remembering we are in the center of all the directions, north, south, east, west, and center. We are always in the center of the directions. I want to again acknowledge and thank Michael Rothenberg and Terry Carrion for making this event possible, and WriterHouse, which is a 501c3 organization. And WriterHouse is partially supported by the Virginia Commission for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Humanities. So thank you, VCA and National Endowment for the Humanities, for also helping to make this event possible. Well, our purpose is to celebrate and acknowledge and share the joy and the inspiration of poetry. And you know already that our one requirement for what we read today is that the themes be on peace, justice, and sustainability and environmental integrity. So I am really eager to hear you read, and let's get started. Does anyone have a question? Okay, I'm going to invite you to take a moment and join me in Let's Drum the Heartbeat. You do it too. It's not just knee drumming. Come and do alignment. Or if you don't want to drum on your chest, just pat your hands. In 2016, I was one of 200,000 people in the People's Climate March in Washington, D.C. And at the end of the event, we sat down across the street from the White House and together tapped the heartbeat. This is the first sound any of us heard. Tap your finger. First sound we heard in our mother's moon. And I remind you that each of our energy fields is in the shape of this torus. And who else's energy field is in the shape of the torus? Earth. Always supporting us, not separate. You're also, when you tap up here, it's beneficial for physical well-being. Thank you. It's also soothing and it's calming. And I can feel a difference. I hope you can too. Okay, so Annie, we're so happy you chose to join us. And Irene, Marti, Mariana, Susan, Tom. And hopefully, Tom, you can check down at the screen if others pop in again later on.
Yeah, I take a look, if you see me looking over to the right every now and then, I'm looking at the
Thank you.
room, the waiting room. So
Thank
we're
you,
good
thank you,
right
thank
now.
you. The only thing Tom doesn't have right now is his wizard's hat.
What's that? My
I
what?
said the only thing that you're missing at this moment is your wizard's hat. But maybe it's virtual too. Okay, so ready? I'm going to go ahead and invite Susan to read first because I know you.
Wait. I've been working on under deadline all afternoon, and I haven't.
You want to rest? Okay, great. Here we go, Mariana.
Leave me further down.
Okay. If I can find where.
I'm
Unmute
gonna,
yourself, Mariana.
there we go.
I'm pulling the poems up now. So the first one is a poem that I wrote in the time between the 2016 election and the inauguration, and it's just feeling more real now than ever. So the poem is called Never. In the never only of the once more night, though South Sudan is new, Syria's not old. In the elsewhere of the other only, those explosions could be women. In the never ever province, fast dash lines for machine gun tracers right across the starry sky. In the other elsewhere somewhere, dripping children passing carts where the only's never willing and the willing always waits. No one dares retrieve their parents from the ever, ever night. Here and now, only never, ever scrawled on sweetheart walls. My alarm radio just came on. I'm sorry. I don't know if you can hear it in the background. It comes on automatically. I'm going to try to turn it off. There we go. Okay, the next poem is called Bone Graft. And I discovered people don't really understand where I'm going with this poem. So I had a bone graft in my mouth, and I started thinking about all the different parts of the cadaver that were in different people. And I was thinking about how divided we are now. And the poem just made me think of how we could just be passing people that are somehow related to us and not even know it, because in fact we all are doing that all the time. So it's called Bone Graft. I've taken you into myself, dead person. Bone of your bone fused, I'll consume the world with you. What have I become now that you've become a part of me? Am I more conservative, less straight? Who have you in dying bound to me? You've been divided, heart, lungs, and liver, resurrected and washed in the blood of your new made family. But we could pass on the street without seeing that of you in each of us. We could kill ourselves in one another without knowing what we've done. And the last poem I'm going to read is a brand newish poem. It's like less than a month old, and it's called To a Demagogue. And if you don't know, a demagogue is a populist politician, someone elected on the lack of, not on the lack of reason, but on the basis of reason, but on the basis of emotion. And it was inspired because my book group has been reading the Catholic theologian Richard Rohr, who believes that we all contain the divine, which in his belief is what is meant by the word Christ and not a specific person named Jesus, and that everyone contains them, whether we recognize that or not. It's just that in some people, the divine is kind of dead inside of them, waiting to be awakened. And so we had a lot of discussions about how do we love the divine in people that are doing such horrible things. And the explanation is way longer than the poem. To a demagogue, you were made in the image of God knows what. What could there be in your Christ cup? That's us all.
Thank you. And Mariana, who or where or what would you like to dedicate your reading to?
To everybody who is working to bridge division, particularly a writer I've been reading right now, and Justin Lee is his name. He's not a writer in the, he's in the terms of thought. I'm thinking about how to talk to people who think differently, and how to listen to everybody that's trying to listen to each other.
Thank you. And I invite each of us to dedicate our reading to whomever or whatever. The earth. I sent that in the information in the last email I sent you, but and you can dedicate at the beginning or the end, but pause for a moment and acknowledge whomever or whatever you would like. Thank you. All right, Mariana, thank you. Our next reader is Irene.
Okay. Oh yeah, I'm unmuted. So yes, I'm dedicating this to all who have died of COVID-19, and that includes everyone over the world. Sort of a big dedication. So, and my first poem, I think some of you have heard my poems, so so you'll just have to hear it again. But anyway, all right. My first poem is called The New Dead. Where are they, the new dead? You look for them everywhere. They wandered down a long street into some sad hinterland. And even if you try to follow, they're gone. And the bed where they once lay is made ready for the bodies of guests and relatives. Somehow they've left this world to inhabit the sky or to touch off a memory. They leave you behind to wake up alone and drag through another day. The new dead have no mercy. You have to be patient and wait for the strangeness to wear away, for the smooth rocks by the river to warm you again. And, I'm only going to have two poems. And this one I wrote yesterday, so it hasn't been worked on that much, but it's an occasional poem. It's for the occasion. On this day in September, I voted, walked to the mailbox, put in the envelope, and raised the little flag. The rain has passed for now. Morning was one of those on the threshold of fall. Goldenrod fuzzing the fields, oaks edged with yellow. We drove up Afton Mountain to pick up groceries. Blue mountain peaks rising like islands from strewn mist in the valley below. In Waynesboro, Paul examined our coupons, gave some back, told us our substitutions, what they were out of, carefully filled our trunk with 7 paper bags, only his eyes showing above the mask. The parking lot seemed filled with bent old women in tightly coiffed hair. Mask strings caught up in hearing aids and glasses, bodies stiff with arthritis like mine. On the way back, we stopped at the lookout. The whole valley stretching for miles beneath, cool and fresh after the too hot summer. I tell myself I'm lucky to be alive and voted, hoping it will count, afraid of the future. Will I be able to march and march again? I must keep in mind this peaceful valley, let loose from night rain, as if I were an astronaut, seeing for the first time a world one in its fragility.
Thank you, Irene. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. I want to pause again just for a moment and to give space between each reading. It's such a treat to hear you read. Thank you, all of you. I'm looking out my office window and I see 2 does grazing in the yard. Our next reader is Annie Sheehan. Thank you, Annie.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Beautifully.
Sounds good.
Excellent. Many of you have already heard this poem called Split Apart, and I'm going to dedicate it to my best friend, Jaren. So here it goes. Split Apart 2020. The collision came first, the impact later. An improbable quirk, chaotic and entropic, expanding into a hot burst that created an orbit stretching across space and time, grandly unified. Later came you and I, once together, now apart. That is where the problems start. From that descent, we came to relent, a hand too distant to hold. Instead, we found a bow, sword, then a gun, taking shots, Second Amendment rights we were told to pledge allegiance to justice with no peace. Even Lady Liberty has chains at her feet. Guns breed a shooting range. Trayvon was shot. Ahmaud was shot. Breonna was shot. Everyone is taking shots real or behind a screen. Facebook is a wall of casualties. When the virus came, it attacked a system about to crack. Invisible, it attaches to receptors so we can't breathe. For 9 minutes, George Floyd had an officer's knee on his neck. How to go back to the wreck where it all began, when we are still building castles out of sand. The heart extends into networks that pump the same blood from our ancestors. They who strove for principles and built nations, but ideals are all they could ever uphold. It is hard to blame the dead when we are all born with a blindfold and must do as we're told. I heard that evolution is a feedback loop. It's as if existence yearns to cycle back before the collision, before the celestial crack, to realize a point of essential unity. We've tried to democratize, but we end up reducing a person by color, orientation, or creed. I also heard that the brain functions best when witnessing moral value and togetherness. Endorphins flood the body when taking that leap into a higher way of being. You know, I see you, you see me, we are split apart from the same seed, and from that same seed creates same love, trans love, hetero love. Notice how I didn't use the word sex, as if sex were always the end game. After 7 million years and 7 billion people later, history shows that the population will keep popping unless we look out from our shelters and start to consider how to lay a new foundation, not with hammer, but hope. Hope that is not built on a blind belief that things will get better, but a hope that is in the work and action to finally get back home.
Hey, Judith. Welcome, Judith. Tom, Judith Green.
Right on.
Got it? Thanks.
Thank you all
Yay, Judith.
for the platform. Hey, sis, you're awesome. Wow.
Welcome, Judith. Welcome. Thank you so much for hanging in with us. And
Thank you.
do you want to thank Tom for the technological wizardry? So thank you. I just put your name in.
Hi, Judith. Thanks for joining. I don't know why we have you in here twice. Could be my shaky hands. Maybe I clicked twice by accident. So if any, I'm going to try to, one of them looks active. I'm going to try to remove one. So if anything happens, just reconnect. So let's see. Yeah, this one looks like the extra. Well, you know what? It's giving me a scary warning and it's scaring me. So I'm not going to do anything. So go ahead. Or
Okay.
things while they're working, and just ignore the screen, the other screen with.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay.
Oh, Judith, and you've read it, 100,000 Poets for Change before, so you know about the. Well, you don't know about my bowl that my calendar that keeps zipping off into cyberspace, but I'm actually holding a calendar in my hand.
Magic.
You just can't. You just can't see it. And I added your name, so thank you. And I'm just savoring Annie's poem. Thank you, Annie. All righty. So, who's next? Susan, are you ready?
Oh, okay. All right. I'm sorry to be so disorganized.
Susan.
As usual, I'm a day late and a dollar short, as always. But I have a couple of recent poems, which I'm dedicating to people like myself who feel like we're caught in a web of other people's actions. And thinking about it, I've been not only paying attention to what's happening in the world today, but also I've been reading some history, and the two things are kind of crashing together for me. So here's this first one. It's called Toward a Knowledge of International Politics. I'm reading about that ceasefire with its damp and condescending order of advantage, just a tease, a sprinkling of salt in vast, immeasurable wounds. But so it goes, they said, who sat through these loathsome convocations. What are we to do, they said, as if innocent, well down among the peasants, which is just to say, among our mutual ancestors. Some other things were being written, love poems, suicide notes, proposals of engagement. Perhaps your great-great-grandma was a girl with circling braids, chapped hands, and oh, for one so young, a shocking understanding of the perils of betrothal. What else am I to do, she might have said, and who of us would still be standing had those girls sought refuge elsewhere? Do you think the soul can migrate, look for pleasanter entrancement? Maybe you could have been one of those ensconced at the bargain table, shuffling the fates of thousands as the moon, a bloody crescent, hung in the unforgiving sky. Now the second one is a little lighter. It's kind of directly from my own childhood, and it's called Transition. The reality of it was you could expect a swap, but not a knock. Knock had been forbidden not so many years ago. It was the government that said, henceforth, a lock on knocks. You must refrain from knocks, but not swats. So when somebody said, hop, by God, you know you'd got to, didn't have to say, please, from the law of grown-up privilege, no release. How long then, we wanted to know, will it take to get from swat to not? They said, ha ha, but later when we changed things, hey, you know, they changed a lot.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I also intend that to open on, well, two things. Let me share with Judith. Because we can't draw from the bowl, we usually draw the names of communities that we're reading in solidarity with. This time, I'm inviting each of us to dedicate our reading to whomever, whatever, whoever, wherever, individuals, groups, earth, you know, whatever you spontaneously feel called to dedicate your reading to. So thank you. And do you want to take a short break, or are you ready to roll with another reading? Go. Okay.
Keep going.
Okay, good. All right. Marti. Martha. Marti.
I'm here.
You are our next reader.
Marti. Okay, I have two poems, and both of my poems deal with justice. Therefore, I'm dedicating them to the evolution of the human brain and heart. Just a word on this first poem, which is called Yellow Stars. Tetizen was an ancient fortress that was converted by the Nazis in 1941 as a camp for Jews. It was transitional. Most of the tens of thousands of Jews that were there went on to other extermination camps, but thousands still perished in Tetizen. Yellow stars hid north in Czechoslovakia, where mountains rise up, rivers froth and roar, come at last to Tetizen, walk its mossy paths, breathe its crisp air. 80 years past a single breath in time. Enter its empty rooms. Lay on bed frames 3 levels high. Look up at the ceiling, forever open to the sky. Stand in soiled cells. Doors sag on iron hinges. Corroded manacles sunk deep. Hear the shrieking in this space. Smell the putrid air. Step away. Don't forget. Breathe again today's air. The second poem is entitled Sentenced to Life Without Parole. And it has a rather long, what do you call those things at the beginning of the poem? I always block on that word. Thank you. In 2000, this is the little intro. In 2012, the Supreme Court decided that sentencing a minor to an automatic sentence of life in prison without a chance at parole was unconstitutional. It represented cruel and unusual punishment, even if the juvenile was convicted of murder. 4 years later, they ruled the law should be applied to prisoners retroactively. CNN, March 1st, 2019. Sentenced to life without parole. Like Sheldry Top, I was born in 44. I grew up in Michigan too. High school in the 60s when Motown music blared. He and I still share the same age. We are old, alive, well and free. That's where the likeness ends. My life to his, like calm to squall, like him to din. Once as a child, I was spanked by my dad. Sheldry's father used a baseball bat. Weekly routine. When I was riding my bike, catching frogs, Sheldry was seizing with shock. Therapeutic, they said. I was in choir, then learning to drive, even dressed up for the prom when Sheldry was caught robbing a house, stabbing a man. His sentence at 17, life in prison, no parole. I've earned college degrees, married twice, owned 3 houses, had 2 kids, on the same job for 40 years. Retired now, 4 grandchildren. I've been to China, Korea, France, to Italy, Spain, and Portugal, Russia, India, Peru, and some more too. While Sheldry lived for 57 years in a 6 by 8 foot cell, bumpy bed, noisy meals in a mess hall, gated journeys, 2 to 4 hours every day. After almost a whole life behind bars and 2 rulings of our highest court, Sheldry addressed the press outside the prison gate. I'm really feeling good about it. I don't know how I'll feel tomorrow, but I don't think I'll feel less good.
Yeah, Marty. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I would also like to acknowledge my appreciation of your first choice of poem being on this date, because this is at sundown. It's one of the high holy days for the Jewish, those who are Jewish, still practicing Judaism, and it would be also known, it's Yom Kippur, it's known as the Day of Atonement. So my ancestors, thank you for that. my ancestors also, many of whom were, would also appreciate that I chose to be here that this event is happening today. So thank you. Beautiful. All right. Another deep breath. You are getting poetic nourishment today, yes? Right. Tom, are you ready to read?
Yes, I am. So I always feel inadequate in this, and when times are like this, when there's so much chaos and division. So I don't have a lot. I only have one new poem relating to the times, the current events. But what I wanted to do was talk a little bit about the figure behind me, which is called Woodpecker, which is a painting by Fred Tomaselli. And so I guess I'll start with trying to relate it in a way to like surviving the chaos we're in. So we're in this time of plague, division, and chaos, and it's bringing out some of the flaws from the time that we first became a country, since our inception, and so a lot of these things were hidden by our ignorance and indifference, and I have to say that I certainly have to confess my own indifference and ignorance, just living my pleasant life. Well, that was easy, not to do anything. And now that I'm getting kind of old, it seems like I wonder what I can really do. Just maybe try to speak out sometimes. And I don't think we've hit the bottom yet. So you have to go all the way down, and that hopefully a new future will come out of it. That's a better one, that's just and harmonious for everyone. And I thought I'd mention that. So I've heard from some people in the industrial supply field that our government is placing huge orders for arms and bullets and some kind of an incendiary device for burning houses or people, and riot control equipment, so that things aren't really looking too well. And it's not in the news, but this is what I'm hearing, which is pretty scary. So back to the woodpecker. So there's so inside this giant woodpecker are all these little like microcosms, and they're in this painting, they're all birds, and somewhere in there, which I don't know if it's behind me or on maybe a little bit to the bottom, that there's like a human monster. There's a human skull monster face, which kind of reminds me of the Buddhism and the it's called Vajra, or the thunderbolt of illumination. And so this woodpecker is he's eating all these other birds and taking in everything, and they're all becoming part of him, and he's in turn part of the universe. And so everything's like inside him and outside him together, and the bird's looking on at this wonderful universe filled with cosmic energy and wonder. And so as far as I'm concerned, the woodpecker can eat me. It's okay. And that I hope after I'm assimilated that everything will be better, and we'll have a better future. So I have this is a new poem. It's like 2 days old, which is kind of dangerous to read, something that's new. But it's called Words. We are broken with words, rearranged with words, commanded by words to do the unspeakable, tremendous, amazing, losers, weak, dominate, fine people, bad people, the blacks, the Muslims, the Hispanics, hoax, my military. Words break us apart, or knives twisting in our hearts, send slogans, not prayers, that chisel headstone epitaphs. Have yet to heal, have yet to say, forgive. And this next poem is called Nobody Knows. I have music that goes with it. I can try to start it up, and it's on my iPad here. See if it'll. God is a gambler. He knows we're flawed. He likes to take a chance on us all. He likes to spin the wheel, round and round it goes. Where it stops, nobody knows. The wheel is his lathe on which he turns our fate. It's spinning around and around, and it's fair where it stops. Nobody knows. Come into the gambling room. It's got everything you need. Hold'em, blackjack, and roulette. Come on in, pull up a chair. God is dealing. God is square. He never stacks the deck. He is always just and loves us with a poker face. Shuffles the cards before he cuts. Because he loves us, he is fair. He never tells. In time, I'll reach the river. I won't complain about my hand. If the chips are down, I'll complete the final round. When the wheel slows to a stop and I'm there, I will know. And that's it.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
And Tom, do you have anyone or place or thing to dedicate that you're reading to?
Well, as far as a place goes, I think last spring, before the virus, the spring before, I was in Tuscany with my wife in this beautiful place in this little town of San Casciano. And so I'd like to dedicate it to, I guess, northern Italy, to San Casciano and Florence and Lucca and all these wonderful towns in Tuscany. And also to the people who, the people who were suffering from racial injustice. I'd like to dedicate it to them as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Deep breath. Judith, are you ready? Thank you. Unmute yourself.
Thank you, everyone, for your poems and Tom, art and music. Could I just use the restroom? I will be right back.
Yes.
Just get water.
Yes.
It'll-
Go. Okay. Tom, where did you find that wonderful print? No painting.
Let's see, it must have been over 10 years ago. My son was working at the Virginia Museum of Fine Art, and he was hanging it. So somebody took a picture of him when he took it out of the box. It came in a big crate. And he was an art hanger or handler, I guess they're called. And so he uncrated it and pulled it out. And he just had this incredible look on his face, like do I really get to hang this wonderful painting?
It is
So
wonderful.
I got it. So I got, you know, use the picture, and so there are about 9 of these paintings. So this one has birds and the skull inside it in these little cells. But some of them, there's another one I have it's a picture of it, and it's full of like space larvae. They're like these little amoebas and things from the cosmos that it's eaten. And then they're also out in the cosmos around it. And it's another really cool painting.
Wonderful, thank you. It conjures to me some of the contemporary Australian Aboriginal art.
Oh, yeah.
If you haven't been to the Kluge-Ruhe, I recommend going. Okay, Judith is back.
And where do you recommend we go? What did you just say?
The Kluge-Ruhe Aboriginal Art Museum in
Oh,
Charlottesville. And
Okay, I got a lot of heads are nodding. So,
Yeah,
all right. So
it's great.
I'm gonna do the dedication thing. I would like to dedicate this to kids, to survivors of unspeakable things, to ritual abuse survivors, incest survivors, and big people too, because a lot of big people have a lot of hurt inside them, a screaming little person inside, and so poetry is a way to speak to the unspeakable. I so truly believe it, and I hope so. I'm going to read this. I wish I could be Marti, the way she just sat there like a spoken word poet, and just, you know, and Susan too. But you're not gonna see me because I'm going to be reading from Word documents. Okay.
you muted yourself. There you go.
I did. I muted myself. So here we go. This poem is called This Town.
Yeah, 20 minutes. I don't know.
So here we go. This town. Women's hair falls in strands from an opal sky. Birds fly with claws open to the earth. I don't like this town. That boy, this girl near the corner house, all of us ran. No mother, fathers. Boys chase rabbits in this town. The leading of dumb animals is left to girls. Pulling possums on string leashes at noon. My friend Tommy is listening to a pig. The ear is cut off in his hands. He ties orange leaves with ribbon to its hooves. In bedrooms, drawers of pink marble babies are pulled out backwards. I cannot tell what I know. I want to climb inside the warm body of a rabbit, put my lips on its heart until I hear the go and come of its living. Right. Now I'm going to go to the next poem. So Miss Susan has heard both of these, but this is was just said, this is a very new poem, and so here we go. Flight horse. Be a girl? No. Too many handlers. As my label, Judith female, falls from the baby incubator, the cosmos lords already leashing me, my mother reads the ACRU monogram note from the clinic doctors. Your daughter might be, the way she throws her head back like a mare, a stallion, it is possible. We have not seen this before. Even her bones are more horse than Homo sapien. We have to conclude this possibility. You birthed a filly. In her lewd vodka fuzz, she almost giggles with rage. I made love with a man, not a horse. To investigate this child pedigree hoopla, she assigns a team. She is connected. Tiny, wordless, in my breath spirit, before words, I know, my family kills its women. The cosmos lords leashing me to realm palaces, seething jaundice, our private generational bloodline, the welcome mat. The cosmos demands its owner privileges with leashes of leather, ink of blood, stitching the leashes into my blood, whoops, stitching the leashes of leather, ink, of blood. You know what, I'm gonna start, I lost the screen, I'm just gonna read that stanza over, okay. Tiny wordless in my breast spirit before words, I know. My family kills its women. The cosmos lords leashing me to realm palaces, seething jaundice, our private generational bloodline, the welcome mat. The cosmos demands its owner privileges with leashes of leather, ink, of blood. Stitching the leashes into my blood genetics I will never be without, not in love, not in a chiffon sea, not in daylight. Tainted, want out, want out. The mother waits, tips vodka with oxtails at the Redwood Lounge. That sixth summer tanned legs hang off the pool's stone. 4 girls kick right, kick left, knees twisting like licorice girl knees. Mine don't twist turn as girl, only forward kick like horse. I am becoming. The team the mother hires from the house of sod, no to ask, to find if present under brown hair, a rare birthmark of pearl lavender translucence, the mark of Akulteke, a horse never born into human bloods. They bend to jewel eyepieces winnowing my hair, strands sputtering and ambered, Arabic. Ladling the bones in my legs with Arabian honey, another. An ancient skin fragrant with cardamom, saffron, nudges 3 diamonds with thumb over my heart fig, his ear hearing the diamonds speak. Shuddering, eyes trembling, arms wide, shimmering with glory, he almost breaks into words. She is to race, her heart is held in the gold oil of stallions. I seizure from flesh, its deafening ruach, into the air realms, leave this soil, human legs splintering, into the blue ding-tink of twilight, flight. Thank you so much for listening to a very new poem. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you, Judith, for writing it and sharing it with us. Send it out. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Right.
You for gathering us all.
What?
Gathering us all. Thank you.
It's in the stars. It's part of my path. My North Node is in Aquarius. All right. So I'm just so happy this happened. Thank you all. It's wonderful to hear your voices and your poems. And I affirm your voices and your poetry matter. Our coming together today in this way, even with all the techno difficulties, we have co-created together something that is going out into the world energetically. We have co-created this moment in time in this experience, and it's giving something positive and beautiful and meaningful out into the world. Thank you. So I am dedicating this reading. I want to first acknowledge and express appreciation for a previous reader at 100,000 Poets for Change who transitioned recently, and that is George Phillips. So I honor and acknowledge George and for his being who he was and being a 100,000 Poets for Change reader for probably 5 years. Patsy Ascension's husband, George. I also honor and acknowledge 3 other poets who have transitioned within recent months, not from COVID, and Sarah Noor, Peggy Lazaron, an aunt, and Edith R White, who was a code talker in the Navy in World War II, as well as being a poet and mother of four and librarian and many other storyteller and published poet. She was 95, and some of you have heard of poems I wrote about her. So I also dedicate my reading to Earth, to all of you, to the future generations, with heartfelt appreciation to the ancestors who have held the dream and lived the dream for what we have the potential of becoming. I'm smiling because now I see a doe and a fawn outside the window. All right. Masked, gloved, I walk 6 feet distance from a man wearing a famous brand of athletic shoes, talking into a phone held in his left hand. He carries an empty plastic garbage bag in the right. Holding the phone lip close and steady, he shouts, "I don't like that," as he lifts a trash can liner from a metal barrel bolted to a shopping cart return shed. Phone still in hand, he jumps back in disbelief, repeatedly screaming, "Why would they do that?" Water spills, splatters, though not on his shoes or trembling body, as if more than a split plastic bottle and a bag of water was deliberately aimed. The Allies, some of you have heard this. In mid-September, late afternoon, Pietro wakes from napping in a kitchen chair as a conversation neither of us are engaged in becomes louder. He invites me to his garden. At 93, Pietro walks slowly, stately, to open the crooked gate. One of the dogs follows close enough to goose me. The overgrowth embraces us. Pietro tenderly palm cups and lifts a tomato, caresses dill, gently uproots real Italian oregano, lays the plants and basil seeds in my hand. He motions how deep to place the seeds in soil come spring. Pietro stands with his back towards me. Wind sighs as he speaks. "I want to tell you, my grandfather gave me 1 kilo of kidney beans to plant in grandmother Onofria's garden. When the Allies arrived, I gave them 15 kilos of kidney beans." Pietro doesn't tell me his school was closed during the war, or that he planted the beans while the Allies were marching from Marsala to Palmero. No mention of working in a flour mill, a bakery, delivering meat in the black market, or his job in the rationing office. He did not speak of the bombing, how he ran, fell, the city's shelter was closed, how many times the force of explosions threw him to the ground, stupor, shock, holes, mounds of debris, dust. He walked for 6 hours, found a bus going toward his home. Some of the Allies camped in a field behind his parents' house, befriended him. The tone of his voice as he said the word Allies was enough. Bobby's animals dominate the living room, even with the widescreen sound off, news on, facing his recliner chair. Hung on the wall above a sofa, 3 freshwater fish, longer than his arms. His wife caught the one in the middle. The sofa faces an empty garden window box. Whole body pheasant, bobcat, wild turkey, black bear, each accounted for with pride in naming where he shot them. Eyes in the heads of 4 heavy, racked, white-tailed deer, male deer, forward, forever facing forward. He gives me young yellow squash plants and cracked pots in which to plant them. One more. Spinning backwards. Graceful as a ballet dancer, a tall man hugs himself, screaming in the tantrum voice of a young child. I feel unheard. The line between danger and safety thins in this moment of choice. No one else in the room moves. None of us really know his story. As the focus of his flaming anger rages in my direction, I speak and break the spell. Within seconds, he's talking with another man about fishing, as if nothing is different when everything is changed. Thank you. So how are we doing time-wise? So, thank you. I would like to invite, thank you. I want to invite us all to figure out how to do this. I have in my hands an invisible jar of water of over 2,400, from over 200,000, globally sourced waters, which have been ceremonially blessed. You can see it for a second. So I invite each of you to join me for a moment, and let's acknowledge and bless water, and sending our appreciation and blessing to earth and water. Thank you. And, usually I'm drumming at this event. And so I didn't hook up the external mic so I could stand back and drum for you, but I let's invite each of us to take a moment and acknowledge what we've created today. I thank you. And also I invite you to put out into this circle one word, your take-home word, or what you would like to share, to give out to all of life. So I invite you to unmute yourself. What are you going to take home from this day? Or what is something that you would like to put out give out? Who'll start?
Earth.
Thank you.
Perseverance.
Can't hear you. What?
Perseverance.
That's my word.
Okay, say it again.
Patience.
Fellowship.
Harmony.
The future.
Limitless, compassionate love as awakened caring. We also usually close by our joining our hands together, and then there's a hummingbird right outside my window. Joining our hands and saying the Quechua word, and this is not cultural appropriation. This word was given to me to be shared in this manner. Shungo is a Quechua language word coming from Central South America, from the Andes, and it means from my heart to your heart and everywhere in between. So if we were actually physically together, we would have our hands with left palm up and right hand palm down, moving our hands back, and then I can't get over this disappearance of things like hands on this medium, but hands back, and when we hold them up in the air, we say Shungo. And we'll do that 3 times, giving that out into the world. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Shango!
Shango.
More times. Shango!
Shango.
Once more. Shango!
Shango.
Yay! Yay.
Bye-bye.
So thank you all for hanging in and showing up and sharing your fantastic poetry. What nourishment. I invite you to two things. I want to acknowledge again WriterHouse's role in supporting our being able to do this. So if you're able to contribute something, I posted the website in the chat link. And also, I would like to acknowledge and thank Michael Rothenberg and Carrie Ann again for having the inspiration and the courage to follow up on it, to create this beautiful opportunity for all of us. And to thank you each again. Also, I'm going to send you an email and follow up, and I invite your consideration also of writing a sentence or 2 to send back to me so I can pass it on to the 100,000 Poets for Change organization. What you found, what your response is to this experience. What did you find meaningful? Or how was it important to you? So thank you. Is there anything you would like to share? I want to open up the opportunity. I'm seeing things going in the chat, but is anything else anyone would like to share at this moment? Yes, Susan.
Well, it was great to be back among all these wonderful poets. In the midst of an incredibly busy day, I thought I wouldn't make it here. It's been great to be here. I'm going to run now, but
thank you, Susan. We're so glad you were able to be here.
Thank you for your poems.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Holly.
Thank you. Bye, Susan, Irene, and everyone. Thank you so much.